Hi everyone, and welcome back to my kitchen. The next page in our taco manual is kind of an unusual one, but it's a preparation that you will see especially among market vendors all through central and southern Mexico, and that is the ricotta taco. Now, before you click off, just stick with me. This is really incredibly delicious. And it's something that you can make really quickly. I'm going to roast 2 poblanos and roast some garlic as the main flavorings for this ricotta taco. So I have the garlic still with a papery husk on, and I'm going to throw that into a skillet that's set already over a medium heat. Over high heat here on this one, I'm going to lay these poblanos, and I'm going to turn them regularly until they blacken and blister all over. We want the garlic to be soft, but it'll be a little blotchy black in places. That'll take about 15 minutes or so. For those of you that don't have gas flames, you can do this as close up underneath a preheated broiler as you can get it, and it will take a little bit longer than doing it over the gas flame. But now let's talk ricotta. Most people think about that soupy stuff that you find in most grocery stores. That's very definitely American ricotta, but the rest of the world works with something that is much drier than that. Now, I'm going to work with store-bought, a special kind of store-bought here today, but I know a lot of you are really adventurous cooks. So at the end of this, I'm going to show you how to easily make your own ricotta at home. If you've never tried it, it is so fun because you turn out your own cheese really, really quickly. Okay, so let's look at this. This is old-fashioned. It's called old-fashioned ricotta cheese. And it is, as you can see here, quite stiff. It's not real soft. And I think that most of the ricotta we see in the grocery stores looks like creamed cottage cheese, okay? But this is much more like the ricotta that you'll find, say, in Italy, and certainly like the ricotta that you will find in Mexico. So I need about a cup of this stuff here. Now, if you only can find the real soupy stuff, my suggestion is to scoop out a little bit more than a cup of it and pat it between several layers of paper towels. Just get all that excess moisture out of it. When all of this here is finished, I'm going to use a pair of tongs now to turn this. Yeah, these are looking really nicely blackened. That's what I'm looking for. There's one spot there that didn't get it, so I'm going to hold that over there like that. Let's see what this one looks like. Same kind of thing. It's nicely blackened on that side, but I have to even it up by just holding it down over the fire a little bit. And when these are finished and the garlic has roasted, then I will meet you back here. Now, these poblanos have cooled off after roasting them here, and you can see that the skins just slip right off of them. Probably a lot of you have heard that you're supposed to put these into a plastic bag. That actually makes them steam and continue cooking so much that I don't like the texture of them. I think that's too much. You can just let these cool down at room temperature, or perhaps throw a kitchen towel over it. Now, I have pulled off most of that blackened skin, and then I'm tearing it open like that so that I can get rid of the seed pod here. And then just a very, very quick rinse will help me get rid of all the seeds. And then on this side, I can get rid of the little bits of blackened skin. So there's one of them. You can see how this roasted peel, blackened peel, and it's a very tough peel, is very easy to get off. And now that the chili itself is cooked, you can just put your finger through it like that and then just peel it open. So there you go with the second one. I'm going to give it the brief rinse that I did the first, like that. And then I can just catch all of the seeds and the blackened skin now in the trap of the sink here. And easily get rid of that. Okay, now we're ready to talk through that roasted garlic. The garlic is completely soft, meaning that I can sort of twist it between my fingers and I can feel that it's soft. That means it's going to have that wonderfully roasty flavor. It's pretty easy to get it to pop right out of the papery skins, especially if you do that twist with it, because it will separate the garlic clove from the papery skin there. Or you can use the technique of cutting off that little root end there, and it'll peel super fast after that. Okay, I've got just this one last one here to go, and then I'm going to do a mince on that. And the way that I would do that is exactly the way that I would do it for some raw garlic, which means that I'm just going to very thinly slice it. Now you'll notice how I'm using my knife here, that I am not lifting up the end of my knife at all. I'm actually using as just a circular motion to slice down through it. That way I've got complete control of this knife, and I'm not trying to do that kind of motion, which never feels very in control to me. And then I'll do the rock and chop back and forth here, rocking and chopping and walking my knife back and forth to make a very fine mince of this garlic. Now, this may look like a lot of garlic to you, but you know that once you cook garlic, once you roast garlic or you saute garlic, it loses all of that real intense pungency that a lot of people will say they don't like in garlic. So one of the things that I just never use raw garlic because of that pungency to it, and it's always worth the extra little effort to either do the blanching of garlic that I often do in a microwave where it's covered with water, or do the full on dry roasting like they would in Mexico for the garlic itself. Okay, so we've got this very finely chopped. Now these Poblano chiles, I'm going to cut them lengthwise in about 1/4 inch strips, and then gather up those strips and cut them crosswise, again about 1/4 inch, so that we have about 1/4 inch dice here. Okay, our beautiful flavorings are ready now. I'll take this dry-ish ricotta and put it, in some of the grocery stores here in Chicago, they will sell this as hand-dipped ricotta. So if that rings a bell for you, then it's something that you can look for in your grocery stores. Now we're going to put all of the roasted garlic in here, and then about 2/3 of the roasted poblanos. We'll use the rest of it as a little garnish here. And then we need to talk about some herbs in this. I will say that I'm really into a couple of herbs in this, but you can use anything that suits your fancy or that you have on hand, honestly. They always have thyme in the Mexican markets, so you could use that. I'm going to use epazote and some cilantro here, and we'll just chop all of that up. And let me just show you what this epazote looks like. There's a wilted leaf there, but for this preparation, that wilted leaf will be fine. But this is the sawtooth herb that has a real pungent kind of smell, but I'll tell you, in this preparation, it is so good. So I'm going to just gather our herbs together like this, turn the top down just so that it stays put. And then using the knife, I'm going to slice very thinly. Now I've got my left hand bunching the herbs, and I'm going to walk my left hand back little by little as I'm making very thin slices of the herbs together here. And you'll notice in this situation I'm using the stems and all. Certainly cilantro stems are very tender and very delicious. So then when I run out of everything but just the bottom of the herb branches there, I can pick all this stuff up and put that right into the bowl there. Now we're missing salt and pepper. I think ricotta loves pepper, so we can start with that. And I'm going to put about a half a teaspoon. You can suit your own taste with this, but for me, half a teaspoon is a really nice amount because it will actually taste of black pepper. It won't just be a hint of black pepper. So that should be about the right amount there. Yep, I got about that. And so I put that in there. I know we're going to need about a teaspoon of salt. So I'm going to start with that before I taste it here. Because I have made this a bunch and I know that that's going to be it. Now let's talk about salt and ricotta. 99% of the ricotta that you will find will be completely unsalted. So when you saw me put a teaspoon of salt in there for just a cup of ricotta, you might have thought that that was a lot. But ricotta doesn't typically come with any salt. If yours does, then you're going to want to go much less on that. I think we hit all of the flavorings just right in this. Now, this may surprise you to put a cold filling in a taco, but all over Mexico, there are people that do it all the time, and this is absolutely one of my favorite ones. Now, let's talk about the garnishes for this. I am going to use a little bit of chopped white onion, and so I'm going to cut this up. But the next step that I'm going to take with it is to rinse it off. Got a little bit of the onion skin on that piece, so I'm going to take that off first. And I'm going to rinse it with cold water in order to take away that pungency that a lot of people don't like in raw onions. You create that when you're chopping it and you break cell walls and you make this sulfurous compound when you do that. I think that will probably be enough for me, so I'll scoot this over to the side there. But I'm going to take it to the sink now, and I'm going to rinse it under cold water. And it doesn't take very long to do this, but it rinses off all that pungency, that raw onion pungency, and make sure your onions just taste incredibly fresh. Okay, I'm going to put that on this little plate here. And then I've got some radish. Most of you will be buying those round red globes from the grocery store, but I thought I would show you a different kind of radish. Here in Chicago, nobody can grow the radishes during the winter, but what they do grow in the fall is a type of storage radish. And this one, I'm going to cut it in half this way so that you can see how beautiful it is. So this is called a beauty heart radish. And it's just so beautiful, but it's a storage radish so that we can hold it all winter long. But it has a rather tough skin. Sometimes they call these watermelon radishes for obvious reasons here. But so if I cut off that green exterior on this, it will be way easier to eat. It's a little tough on the exterior. Certainly don't find that in any of the summertime radishes that we're all so used to here. So I'm going to make a few little radish sticks here, and I'm going to do that by slicing first some of this radish. Just look at how beautiful that is. It does definitely resemble a watermelon, and then cut little sticks out of that. Once you get really comfortable with holding a chef's knife in your hand and how to use it for these basic procedures, your cooking just goes so much faster, and I think it's more aesthetically pleasing. Okay, so we've got some of these guys to mix into our fresh raw onion over there. That's white onion, by the way, not yellow onion, which is a very different flavor. If you haven't ever tasted them side by side, I encourage you to do a taste test at some point because it will really surprise you how different their flavors are. Then really warm, steamy, hot corn tortillas. I'm going to take this one that's down here and leave the top one in place there. So we'll line those guys up. And on each one of these, I'm going to scoop out some of the ricotta filling here. like that. And then a second one. And then you'll see whether you're using these storage radishes or the regular globe red radishes, it's still going to look really beautiful when you sprinkle some of this over the top of it like that. See how colorful that makes it? And then you get that little bite of the radish in here. And then we've got some more of the Poblano to go over the top of it. And you have an incredibly beautiful and really, really satisfying taco. A little off the beaten path, but one that I think could become a staple in your house. Now, stay tuned for homemade ricotta. Homemade ricotta. It is so easy to do. I've got 1 gallon of milk heating right here. Now, the milk is really important because that's all the flavor here. So the better the quality, the better the flavor of the milk, the better your ricotta is going to be. So I always look for one that's grass-fed if I can, perhaps organic from a local dairy, so I know it's really, really fresh. And I have slowly heated it in a fairly heavy pot here until it hit about 190 degrees. Now I've got I'm just right at 190 degrees right now. Now, if you don't have a thermometer, that's okay. This milk will, if you keep a stir on it so that it doesn't scorch on the bottom of the pan, but it will start to steam at about 160 degrees. As you're stirring it, you'll see the steam start to arise. So you want to go a little higher than that. I will say the exact temperature on making ricotta is not as critical as some might think. So now I hit my 190. I'm going to turn it off now, and I'm going to stir in 1/3 cup of lime juice. So this is not a rennet set cheese like most of the cheeses that you know. This is an acid set cheese. So this is whole milk ricotta, by the way, not the one that is made from whey, but we'll talk about whey just in a second. So I'm going to just sprinkle this lime juice all over the top of this pot here. And then very gently stir it in, and the acid is going to coagulate the milk. Maybe you've had milk in your refrigerator for too long and you tried pouring it out and it was all chunky. Well, that is curdled milk, and that's what we're actually going for here. We're going to let this steep now for about 10 minutes off the fire, and the curds will start to form, and they will separate from a sort of clearish liquid that we will call the whey. And all we want for our ricotta is just the curds. So I'll meet you back here in 10 minutes when this is fully curdled. Now, we're 10 minutes in here. It's still steaming, so this whole mixture is very hot. I'm using one of these sort of skimmers. They're oftentimes called a spider in a commercial kitchen. And I'm going to go in here very gently and start ladling out. You could do this with a little strainer. Ladling out the curds, and I'm putting them into a bigger strainer now that is lined with some cheesecloth. Now this cheesecloth has been dampened just to make it easier to work with here. So you want to go gently with this part of it, but all that, it's sort of milky, clearish looking liquid, the whey here, you want to get off of this because you want to drain that out. Now, those of you that want to make your own homemade queso fresco, you can look on my website and I'll lead you through essentially the same process of making it. But for the ricotta, we're going to want it to be lighter in texture than queso fresco. So we would just let it hang for longer and press out more of the whey. But it's a way that if you don't live in an area that has good queso fresco and you want to make something that's got queso fresco in it, you can make your own queso fresco in a similar fashion to this. Much of the The queso fresco in Mexico is set with rennet, like most cheeses are, but you can make a version of it that is acid set like this. So see that you'll get about a pound of ricotta out of a gallon of milk. And then you want to just press out a little bit of the whey. So you can see by just collecting up the four corners of this cheesecloth that you put enough pressure on it to really start draining out a lot of that whey. At our restaurant, we make an acid set queso fresco all the time, and we will tie these balls pretty tightly and just let them hang for several hours to get all the whey out of them. But that's not the exact thing that we're going for here. Remember that most ricotta is eaten fresh, and you may fall in love with this stuff and want it to be on your dessert table all the time. The first time I made ricotta, I drizzled it with a little bit of honey and I served it with some fresh fruit, and I was totally in heaven because this is going to be like the freshest ricotta that you have ever had. Let this continue to drain now for an hour or two. I'm going to open it back up so that you can sort of see in here what we've got. You can touch it and feel that it's kind of soft there. And it's going to just take a few, well, I would say like an hour or so more to drain. And then you need to refrigerate it until you're ready to use it. But certainly give it an hour or two in the refrigeration and you're going to have amazing, fresh, homemade ricotta.